an ideal world, Kamala Harris would be true to her ideals and answer questions based upon the policy positions that we all really know are in her heart. Killing of a baby is not a great thing. We should all be horrified at a truck that gives abortions on the streets of a city willy-nilly. They're not running for president. They're running so Donald Trump cannot be president.
Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Last month, Milwaukee, Wisconsin welcomed about 100,000 weirdos to celebrate their convention at the RNC. Just this week, the DNC celebrated theirs full of joy, they say. So here to react to all of the full week of the DNC, everything that supposedly was joyful, is Fox News host, the co-host of Fox and Friends First, Todd Piro. Good to have you, Todd.
Good, sir, to be with you. Look, on the joy front, I'm not going to say there wasn't joy, but there was a lot of weirdness too. It is not normal. Even if you are for abortion, what did Clinton say? Abortion should be safe, legal, and uncommon or limited or something like that. Bill Clinton wasn't celebrating. The Democrats are celebrating. And you've seen man-on-the-street interviews with women who are talking about it like it's an ice cream truck and how it's such a great thing. The killing of a baby is not a great thing. And look, I'm not going to get to the discussion as to why certain people have to make that choice and whether it's the right choice or not. That's a discussion for a different day. But we should all be horrified at a truck that gives abortions on the streets of a city willy-nilly, because let's face it, you can get an abortion if you want it and the government will pay for it. That is clear. Second, there are really no, well, let me break this down for a young man like yourself. The people that get vasectomies, talking about the vasectomies, are in a very, very tight window. It's literally the only males getting vasectomies are those between the ages of 45 and maybe 55. So it's a very, very tight window. It's those that are done having kids. And, most people that are done having kids are, in that 45 to 50. If you're 55, you're effectively done having kids. And if you haven't gotten a vasectomy at that point, and it doesn't matter. So it's really the 45 to 55-year-old. That is not Kamala Harris's demographic. She is not winning 45 to 55-year-old men. They are not at the DNC. They're just not. That group is like 95% Trump, okay? So who are you catering to? The Democrats cater to the youth. Do you know one individual that's your age that has even contemplated the thought of it a second? Because
Not that they should.
I didn't know what the word meant when I was your age. Right?
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if there were young people getting vasectomies. Maybe like someone like Harry Sisson, not sure in need of his vasectomy, but perhaps he got one. I know a bunch of people like C.J. Pearson, even Mike Lindell. They asked him if Harry got a vasectomy. He could have answered. He never accepted or denied it. So it's questionable there. But I know
yeah, so odd. Like, why would that be outside the DNC? It is just so weird. And that's the word that comes out of my mouth. But it's almost like they knew that they were going to do that. So they're like, let's call the Republicans weird, kind of draw, get out in front of it. It's just so.
It's very weird. And we know the Democrat strategy for the past few decades has been accuse the Republicans of that which they're doing themselves.
Right.
So this is just another example of doing that. I know on the first 2 days, there were 25 babies aborted, 25 babies murdered in just the first 2 days of the convention at those buses. And they said they were booked out the whole week. So how many more were killed in the rest of the week? And they're just accepting this. It's one thing to go get it as a private citizen, but for a whole political party to cater to it and offer it on the street, that's a whole nother level. I don't think our founders ever imagined we'd be here. But I wanted to get your take on this statistic that came out. I think it was Frank Luntz, the pollster, who brought this up. Yeah, he's something there. He might be weird too. He said the second night of the DNC, they averaged 20.6 million viewers, and that was about 30% higher than the RNC's second night. Do you think there's something there, or is it just because more mainstream media covers the Democrats, or more in favor of the Democrats, and the Republican side is more independent journalists and not on mainstream media? You think there's something there, or why do you think that statistic is true?
Yeah, there could be something there. I think from a sheer comparison perspective, Republicans need to be honest with themselves. The DNC was more entertaining. And I believe Tuesday night was Lil Jon.
And Obama, I believe.
Okay. I'll tell you, we showed the clip of Lil Jon doing the introduction, and I got out of my chair. I was dancing. So you can understand if that's my emotion, and you're flipping through the channels, and you see Lil Jon doing his thing versus, I don't know who spoke at the RNC on Tuesday, but in that time slot. You're probably going to stick around to see. And all those things factor in the ratings number. Also, Barack Obama, love him or hate him, you have to acknowledge that he was a popular president throughout many periods in his presidency, not throughout the entire thing, but throughout many periods in his presidency. So, there's a reason that we work hard at the entertainment angle of our show, is because you can have the best content in the world, but if it's boring, people aren't going to watch. We can have the best stories, but if they're not delivered in a way that captures the audience, people aren't going to watch. So if I'm guessing, I think that's the factor. That's probably the most prominent here. There is also the fact that I think a lot of Republicans watch the DNC on Fox. I mean, I see the numbers. We had a fair number of people tune in. I don't know if the left was that enamored with the RNC to tune in. So I think that's a second factor. And there's the elephant in the room, no pun intended to the GOP mascot, but, Kamala Harris is enjoying a burst of excitement right now that, I should say, through Thursday, the last day of the convention. And, that could be a third reason for the ratings. But let's see what happens, because today is the day after the convention, and we need to see what happens when she is hopefully asked questions by people in the media, gives the opportunity to the media to ask her questions, and the debate. I mean, let's face it, the debate is that she's going to be asked questions and she's not going to be on teleprompter, and let's see what happens. And I think America really is going to have that choice. In an ideal world, so that the American people could all be sort of on the same page, Kamala Harris would be true to her ideals and answer questions based upon the policy positions that we all really know are in her heart. And I think that way the American people can get a really solid contrast as to what they want for their country. If she says things like, I'm for TIPS, I believe in border security, I think we need to secure the border, and I'm going to give middle-class tax cuts, we know all three of those things are incorrect. She's not going to do that. She is not going to secure the border. She's not going to give the middle class a tax cut. She's probably not going to do the TIPS thing. She's going to find a way to have it not work out. And so that's the issue. It's the lies to the American people. Be forthright on the policy that you're going to do so we can all make a choice. But if you're lying to the people, baiting and switch them, that's not right. But that's how the Democrats win at any cost.
Yeah, it definitely is. And there's no way she does it. But I want to add this into the factor as well. If we look at the 2016 ratings of the DNC, they were 22% higher than this year, with Hillary running as the nominee versus Kamala now. You think there's something there between 2016 and 2024 now, between people watching the mainstream media? You think there's a lot less people now? Or what do you think from the inside of it?
Yeah, I wouldn't take that as an enthusiasm thing one way or another. I would take that as not as many people watch TV. I think you got to look at the numbers on like YouTube and, various other, social media fronts to see the engagement on a speech. I wouldn't, I can tell you, look at the numbers, like there aren't that many people. There could be 20%, 25% fewer people that have cable, which means they don't have TV, right? There's a lot of times you can have a physical box in your home, but if it's only getting Netflix and Disney Plus, you're not necessarily getting the local channel or the cable network that's going to air the DNC. So, I wouldn't read too much into that for a lack of enthusiasm. I know Republicans everywhere are looking for things to calm them down. I don't think they should be calm. I think if I'm a Republican, I should be really upset and concerned and nervous, and I should, not rest for the next 70 plus days.
No, I agree with you. Even my family cut off cable. We don't really watch TV unless I'm doing a hit or something this week or next. Honestly, just don't watch it. There's not much there unless something's really breaking. There's also another statistic that I saw the other day. It was showing that the favorability reporting on Kamala on TV was 94% favorable, but the reporting on Trump was 89% negative.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that 6% of the negative on Kamala is between you and Newsmax. That's about it. That's what are you seeing from inside of Fox?
So that's a huge issue. That's a huge issue for Trump. And I've asked almost every guest about it, but I've asked most guests this week, especially when they're connected to the campaign. Like, how does the campaign deal with it? And they haven't really given me answers, although I think we've seen some of their actions, like the Theo Von podcast. That's a solid move. And I really think he needs to hit that group. And let me tell you why. Because there's that group of comedians that is really, first of all, they do the most important things that comedians can do, which is they're fun. These guys, your Andrew Schultz, your Theo Vons, your Shane Gillis, these guys are funny first and foremost. They're amazing. They really do a good job. But they also don't care about the cancel. And I think they came of age when it was killing careers, and they all made decisions to plow ahead. And instead of going places where they could be canceled, they got their name out on social media in a way that wouldn't let them get canceled because they got followed. And Shane Gillis is blatant with his acknowledgement of this. He goes, 100% of my audience is, and he's right. Like, anytime he sees a woman at one of his shows, he's like, I know you were dragged here by your husband or boyfriend. And that's true. But men vote too. Men vote too. And so I think it's incumbent upon Trump to do the Bryson DeChambeau because, men like golf and they like raunchy comedy. Women aren't necessarily listening to the Andrew Schultz podcast. They aren't necessarily watching Bryson DeChambeau's YouTube channel. Men are. And the problem with men is getting them to turn out. So I think if Trump sends that message through the Theo Vons, I think he needs to do an Andrew Schultz podcast. First of all, I think Schultz is freaking the most funny guy out. And some of the jokes he's made against Kamala, I am not going to repeat. You can look them up. But they're really well written and funny. And Schultz is a smart guy. If he got Trump on there, first of all, I think he would explode in terms of his audience. But I think it would really help Trump because it really gets to that audience. You want to get that 22-year-old It doesn't really give, what's about politics. Who wasn't going to vote? Who says, oh man, I heard about that guy. Oh, I didn't realize it was this bad. I didn't realize our country was this much at stake. Trump was pretty funny. Let me go vote for him. That's the guy Trump needs to get now.
Now, I think he's doing a great job at these alternative media, all these shows that he's doing. I mean, the Theo Von interview was hilarious. They're just talking about Theo Von's experience with cocaine for 2 minutes. And we got to see how personable Trump really is, talking about the story of his brother, why he doesn't drink alcohol because of his alcoholic brother. We got to see the human side of Trump and all of these things. And throw in the Elon Musk interview he did on X just a week or so ago. I think a vast majority of those people who tune into the Elon Musk interview were under 30 years old. So what he's doing to reach the youth right now through those shows is quite impressive. I think Barron has a role to play in what he's doing there and encouraging him this show or that show. So I think that's really, really positive and encouraging to see as a young person. But I want to touch on Kamala's speech last night. You have a chance to see clips of it. I'm sure you went to bed early so you could wake up. What was your take on Kamala's speech?
She is very, very good when she's delivering from a prompter. Republicans have to acknowledge that fact. She comes across as, she carries herself presidentially, okay? But in terms of substance, she acts like she wasn't vice president. She acts like she's this newcomer to the game, and she's getting out there. She's challenging the current administration. She is the current administration. There's a sense that Trump is the incumbent. He is not. Trump's been out of office for 3.5 years. And that goes back to that lie. She also lied about Trump. He's trying to free horrific domestic terrorists. No, he's trying to free people who attended a rally and got caught up in a little bit of a... He's not trying to free the 9/11 hijackers. So let's be clear about that when we use that word terror, and then just casually throw the word domestic terrorist. We've all seen what terrorists look like. They don't look like Patty with an eagle jacket on. Okay, that is not a terrorist. That is a fired up American who wants what's best for her country and may have made some bad decisions that day, but does not act like a terrorist. So, so there's the threat to democracy BS all over again. And this notion that because of what the Supreme Court said, he's going to be unhinged and, exceed the limits of his presidential authority. That is not true. Supreme Court carefully circumscribe exactly what the president can and cannot do. And if the president takes an action within his executive rights as president, he will be protected. But if he does something completely off the wall, that won't be protected. And that's something that presidents need of all stripes because, soon Kamala gets elected and, orders an airstrike of something. And some Republican doesn't like it because it hit, I don't know, because he doesn't think it was right. Well, that Republican could then get that president in jail for making a commander-in-chief decision. It just doesn't make sense. So that's the issue that really upset me most was the lies. You can talk about how great you are. You're supposed to do that in a convention speech, and it's our job to call her out on the spin. During my time as a prosecutor, well, here's what else you did as a prosecutor. Well, at least that's a truthful statement. The stuff she was saying about Trump just wasn't truthful. The stuff that she said that was silly, but obviously plagiarized. We're going to be tough on the board. The proper rebuttal is, well, then why weren't you tough on the board of the last 3.5 years when you were, in fact, in office? That's spin. That's accept. Just the lies about Trump are not. And the problem with the lies travels halfway around the world before the truth can catch up.
I think that's a great thing you point out there. And she's always saying, I want to do this on day one, this on day one, that on day one in 2025 in January. But she's on day 1,300 something right now. She still hasn't done it. There's no faith that she'll actually do it in January 2025 should she be elected. But I also want to point out that if you look at like every night throughout all the speeches, I think Jason Miller had a count going every night, how many times they mentioned Trump versus how many times they mentioned the economy, the border. And just about every night, it was about 50-2, 60-2. They mentioned Trump's name 55 times the first night, the economy twice, the border twice. I mean, all it was an anti-Trump fest. Would you agree?
Oh, they're not running for president. They're running so Donald Trump cannot be president. That is abundantly clear. And they're running so they can keep going to the cocktail parties. Don't discount that. These people love to be in power. And I don't even think it's so much because that they can wield that power. That's part of it, certainly. But I think they like the trappings that come with it. They love the cocktail parties. They love that scene. And when Trump gets in there, that scene disappears because, like, Trump's not doing that stuff. The people that are going to work in a Trump administration, they're going there to work. They literally are going there to be a public servant, whether you like their approach or not. Like, I look at my life, for example. I'm not going to cocktail parties. Like, my jobs are, I literally have 2 jobs, home and work. That's all I do. I have nothing else. And I think that DC class is different. Like, they live for the trappings, being seen at this party, that party. Very similar to the Hollywood scene. And when I lived out in LA, like, I didn't do that either. Now, admittedly, I'm in that world now, the politics world, because of where my job and where I work. I was not in that world when I was in LA. But the common denominator, like, I hate that stuff. I like hanging out with friends. If, people want to come into the circle of pod, I'm certainly welcome. I love meeting people, but I don't need to be with the cool person at this party or that party. I need to be around my kids, and I love being around my kids. It's fun. So.
And that's just become the Achilles heel of the political class the past few years, past decade, really. But back at the RNC convention, the weekend after, the Democrats really stole all of Trump's thunder after the assassination attempt, after his appearances at the RNC. Joe dropped out. Now we're saying we can see the reverse here.
Yeah,
where RFK drops out. How do you think that's going to steal the thunder of the DNC?
I don't know. Look, I answered a question that you didn't ask. Let me answer your question. I think it does steal the thunder of the DNC to a certain degree. Let's not discount that. I'm not going to be able to predict. This is the question I thought you were going to ask. I don't know how the votes are going to shake out. I just don't. I have heard very, very smart people on both sides say this clearly gives Trump the edge because all these people are going to go vote for Trump. I've heard people say the opposite. So I don't know. I think it's curious how this will all shake out. That's actually a question that I have for you, because the people that are going for RFK Jr. are probably old Kennedy people and young. So amongst your friends that aren't on the Trump train, do they love Kennedy? Do they not love Kennedy? Like, what are they saying?
They definitely do love Kennedy. This isn't just like the blue-collar people who are out here in the countryside that are voting Trump. These are the people who are in college and are trying to be educated and getting into the workforce. They're liking Kennedy the most. I actually got a random message on Snapchat a few weeks ago from one of my buddies who went to high school with me. He's a class or 2 above me. He was like, "What do you think about RFK?" And then we got talking about it. He said he's voting for RFK. He just likes him the most. He doesn't like the brashness of Trump. So I think there's definitely a point or two that Trump will get from RFK, but it really factors in. It's determined by whether RFK gets out of campaigns for Trump or not.
Well, let me
That's what it's going to factor down to.
That guy that you're talking about, he doesn't like Trump's brashness, but he likes RFK. If RFK says, vote for Trump, will he? That's the only thing that matters.
I think he will, given the alternatives. He's not going to vote for a super small third-party candidate. He does believe in the future of the country. He wants to have a family. He wants to have kids. But he just saw RFK as the alternative between Kamala and Trump. It's just the neither vote that he can semi-make a difference with. Because obviously, he likes Trump more than Kamala. He's not that stupid. but he doesn't like either one. We had talked about this on the show a couple times. I think when Ricky Schlott was on with Avita and I a few months ago, she was saying that she really wants the neither, and she wants that in between. And she saw RFK as that choice. And even Vivek in the primaries was almost the alternative there. So I think if RFK gets out, he not only vocalizes his support for Trump today and an endorsement with Nicole Shanahan, really pushing for that on his campaign, but gets out over the next 70 days or whatever we have till the election and continues to pound that home, continues to make content on these podcasts, because his big thing is the vaccine and those kind of things, where Trump is semi-weak, because he was the incumbent when all of that happened. He was pushing for the vaccine. RFK was obviously opposed to all of the vaccine stuff. So I think it does really make a difference among the youth vote for RFK to come out and get on the trail with Trump.
Is Trump, by Trump I mean his campaign, not just Donald himself, is the campaign doing enough to get you young people? Because early voting starts in 2 weeks, right? Are they doing enough? Be honest.
I don't think so. I think the thing they need to be doing most is going out to college campuses, getting out.
I've said that. I've said that, and they're not.
I can't find someone to talk to on the campaign to get that out to them. I'm not sure if you've talked to anyone on the campaign. I've invited Caroline Levitt on the podcast. I try to get her on to talk about it. But that's the thing they have to be doing most. I've heard they have formed a youth coalition at this rate. Nothing's really been made public about it, but I've heard the rumors behind the scenes that they have with Jake Paul, a couple other people. We see what Barron's doing. His best friend, Bo Loudon, down in West Palm. Bo's a friend of mine, but they're still not doing enough. The college campuses is where they have to be. Getting RFK to come out to college campuses with the Trump team this fall, that would be absolutely massive. I mean, that would mean he's down a couple points among the youth in the last poll that I saw. That was like middle of the road poll. He was down about 2 to 5 points, but he's up 15 points from the 2020 election.
Right.
Because he lost by 22 points then, and now he's sitting at like -5.
Here's
so
what
there's a
he
lot of
needs
room
to
to
do.
be gained there.
Here's what he needs to do. And by him, I mean the campaign. 2 things. 1, you need to convince the people that want to vote for you that are in college, if they have a choice between voting in the place where they go to college or their home state, pick the one that's the swing state. You know, like if you go to college in Pennsylvania, and there are a lot of colleges in Pennsylvania, but you live in New Jersey, vote in Pennsylvania. That's where your vote will matter. Secondarily, the Trump campaign needs to do the college football blitz. Donald Trump should be at a home game in each of the swing states between now and the convention. He should go to Penn State. Absolutely. He should go to Wisconsin, although I've heard Madison is a little lib. He should go to Ann Arbor or East
Michigan.
Lansing.
Yeah, Michigan State.
And he should go to UGA. I don't know if he should go to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. He should go to UGA. You know, it makes sense. Turn out that youth vote. He should go to Virginia Tech. You know, I don't know if I'd go to UVA maybe, but like places like that, turn out the kids. Because I was there at the Alabama LSU game in 2009 when he made a campaign appearance, and that place was rocking. I mean, it was crazy. That crowd loves him. He needs to turn that into votes, and you know, let's see.
And just the thing for the youth is that they don't see him. They haven't, obviously, yet. Most people don't meet Trump. They just haven't seen him in person. They don't really almost think he's a real person. He's just celebratized, because that's just who Trump is. If he can get out, even if he walked through the tailgate for a couple minutes, imagine what that would do.
It'd be great.
Obviously, think about the security risk, all of that. If you could pull that off, that would be incredible. Yeah, I fully agree with you. If we get these surrogates to come out as well, speak to a club, have even a presidential debate on a college campus. Not sure how Kamala would agree to that.
Right.
But if we ever agree to that Fox News debate, get it on a college campus, one of these swing states.
I don't disagree.
I mean, that's exactly what we need, I think. I mean, Liberty would be happy to host it.
Pablo's not going to Liberty.
No, absolutely not. But I got one final question for you
Sure.
here, Todd. I usually close on, if you could tell my generation or America as a whole one thing not to give up, what would it be?
Your generation, don't give up your dream. I know that sounds so silly and schlocky, but like when you're my age, you have to start giving up dreams because you have bills and kids. But your age, you don't. This is the time. I'm happy that I went for my dream. I did a little late, and that has kind of set me. There were reasons I did it. Like I wanted to do TV, but I went to law school and practice first. The reason I wanted that is because I wanted to put myself in a position where I could get a job and I'd have a better chance based upon the education and the experience that I brought to the table. That has worked out. I will say that. But that sort of setup doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So if you see X and you want to do X, I advise trying to figure out a way to do X when you're young. And yeah, because it's really tough to go back at this age.
It's now or never.
As for America, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that there are enough sane-minded people who, if we really reach the brink, would be able to bring us back. That's the hope that I have. But I'd be a liar if I said I didn't worry about that. I think the thing that gives me hope is the other countries aren't crushing it right now. They all have problems. And despite all of our problems, I don't know if you've ever traveled overseas, but boy, it sure is good to come back home. And I think that's the thing we have for us. So,
yeah, I think that's healthy to have a concern for the future. It's good to have you on the show because I know last time audio got corrupted after the interview. Good to have you back on.
I probably made more sense then, even though my audio was corrupt.
Hopefully so. I got to ask you though, you're going on the show at 5 a.m. What time are you waking up? What's your daily schedule like?
For security reasons, I don't go into that publicly, but let's just say really, really early.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm not a joke. I'm going to take a nap as soon as we're done.
I figured. Yeah. It's good to have you, Todd. I appreciate your time once again.
Rob.
Good conversation as always. So
Peace.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
All right.